The ballot or the bullet, freedom or death. We gas ourselves up, but we short on breath. Talking about we eating, but who we really cooking. Dreaming about greens, but ain't nobody looking. No land, no acres, no seeds in the ground. When the hunger hits, who's gonna be around? We starving every day, and it just ain't the food. Feeding the hood garbage, got 'em acting a fool. We flossing with rides, stunting with chains, but these bars we spitting just bring more pain. We guilty as hell, preaching all these lies, selling debt to the kids, and we acting surprised. We commercialize the pain, broadcast the grief, tell the youth to hustle, but hide the beef. We glorify the trap, invite them to the flames, just like Reagan brought the crack on planes. Back in the 80s when the streets got soaked, my people, my brothers, all got choked. Reagan said no trades, but we know the deal. He left us in the dirt, man, that shit was real. I was just a shorty watching it unfold, old enough to see how we got sold. War on drugs, but it was war on us. Cops on our necks, no love, no trust. They labeled us thugs, beasts on the block, made us kiss the pavement while they cleaned our clock. Prison became business thanks to Reagan's game. Free labor is the truth in America's name. Slavery's dead, man. That's just a word. Read the 13th Amendment, it's still absurd. They lock us in cages, serving time for life. Double digits for wisdom, cutting sharp like a knife. I'm here to say, the chains in the air, it's time we break free, start showing we care. No more flexing for nothing, no more selling out. It's time to rise up. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Man, I ain't done this in a while. But before we get into it, you already know how I always play music, independent music. So before we get into it, here is Trey 23710, and I'll be right back right after this.
I'm gonna call you right back. My minute just pulled up.
What's the word?
Doing my boy.
Love it how you pulling up, you feel me?
Well, I'm trying to get like you, man.
Look, it's just a little barbecue down the street, you know. Some bitches up in there, a couple of homies.
I bet. When you fill up, I'm gonna meet you over there.
All right, tap in with me. We ain't gotta worry about nothing. I got everything, though.
I ain't worried about it. I see it.
Easy.
Girl, I just wanna
Why you tripping?
driving down the 17 like a nigga. Got a bad bitch on my right, I'm finna hit her. Girl, you know the deal. Sliding up and down the hood with you. Let me know, girl, what's good with you, yeah. Gotta come correct. Cause a nigga like myself, I give respect.
Yeah.
Don't know how to deal with nothing less.
That's on God, nigga.
If I fuck with you,
Trey,
then
that's
fuck
it.
the rest.
Look, you know we been the rules, for real. Cause we been the truth. Oh God, you know them niggas lying. Know it, and we been the proof. I see my mama crying, man, when that ring was due. That's on God, I see my mama crying. Look, flex, saying loyal, that's my obligation. Fell in love with the confrontation. Ones who I had around me really ain't like me, nigga, that's abomination. Man, I grew up on 7th Street with Omar Brown recipe. Mind your own biz, bro, then you live long, that's a recipe. I slide down in that Benz, dog, with them tents on, don't mess with me. You know I'm really with the shits, dog, got stripes on me like a referee. You know a nigga in love with you, wanna know if I can fuck with you. Run it up, get these bucks with you. Confident, put my trust
Driving
in
down
you.
the 17 like a nigga. Got a bad bitch on my right, I'm finna hit her. Girl, you know the deal. Sliding up and down the hood with you. Let me know, girl, what's good with you, yeah. Gotta come correct. As a nigga like myself, I give respect. Don't know how to deal with nothing less. If I fuck with you, then fuck the rest. Feeling your vibe, driving my top, rolling with a real nigga. This shit don't stop. We can roll around my hood, baby. You know you good, baby. And all them other bitches will stay cool, baby. Yeah, you got it bad. Girl, you deserve it. No way wasting time, me and you, we got a purpose. We gon' keep it flying, you know it. It don't matter where we go, I know you going. I'ma fit that, baby. West side race. I can show you around how the west side made me. I still be on the block, girl, it might sound crazy. 323 to 710, way too wavy. Driving down to 710 like a nigga. Got a bad bitch on my right, I'm finna hit her. Girl, you know the deal. Sliding up and down the hood with you. Let me know, girl, what's good with you, yeah. Gotta come correct, cause a nigga like myself, I give respect. Don't know how to deal with nothing less. If I fuck with you, then fuck the rest, yeah.
Hey, that was Trey 23710. Oh, I know I haven't done this in a very, 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 very long time. So this is honestly not only new to like everybody else, out here in the world. I'm trying to after my stroke and my brain bleed, I'm trying to I guess I want to call it like revamp myself, be a little bit different. So I guess now is really the time to, get involved. It's not just to sit here and talk about it. There's a lot of people out here running for governor. There's a lot of people out here running for city council, Hennepin prosecutor, Hennepin County. So I really feel like, since 2020, I felt like it's always been my calling. This is where I felt like I really started to change my life. And I really want to be involved, when it comes to the governor's race, when it comes to city council in Minneapolis, the mayor, because I really don't think, especially people like me, people who have felonies, people who have, they get talked about because maybe they don't have the best past. Maybe they don't have the, they don't have the name recognition. But it always makes me wonder of like what makes somebody different. They have the same crimes, but they have a different skin color. So I've always thought about it was, it was never really about racism. It's about classism, and that's what a lot of people really fail to really look at. And they always want to go, oh, it's just racism. It's racism. But there's so much other shit out here, and I really feel like, can we really say it's racism? Because I know niggas just like me, right, who have bad backgrounds, who have committed crimes, and not because they made a choice to. It doesn't really matter about, I can talk about my dad not being around. I can talk about, Hennepin County taking me as a juvenile, and not being able to go back home to my mom. There was a whole point in, like, from the age of 12 until almost I was 18 that I wasn't even at home. And that's what a lot of people don't really want to talk about. Everybody says, oh, we want to make change. We want to make how? When a lot of the things that people bring up, people get mad. It's 2025 and we're still talking about feeding our future. But not only just feeding our future, so much other shit. And then we're still seeing contracts going out to fraudsters. Nothing's changing in these communities. And then, there's a whole lot I really want to get into today, because I really feel like all these things affect us. It doesn't matter if you live in Minneapolis. It doesn't matter if you live in Jackson. It doesn't matter if you live in Janesville. It doesn't matter if you live in Duluth, Hibbing, in the Iron Range, if you live in Crookston, because this all affects us in Minnesota. So if you're not watching, I know, here's the one thing that I really want people to know. When it comes to the Minneapolis council, when it comes to the mayor, people that don't live in Minneapolis, our votes don't matter. because we can't vote in Minneapolis unless they're going to do the ballot harvesting and, all the other things when it comes to Omar Fateh, when it comes to Jamal Osman, when it comes to Jacob Frey. And that's what I really wanted to start off here is over the weekend. It's been a really crazy last couple weeks in Minneapolis. And really what's going on in Minneapolis and New York is actually affecting so many other people that live in those states, New York, and then who live in Minnesota, is because if they get a socialist mayor, and not only that, a black who will be considered a POC, the first person of color. No, wait, because Sharon was black too. So let me take that back, because Sharon Bells was black. But that would be the first male that would be mayor of Minneapolis. And we don't even have change yet. We're still fighting. You know what the crazy thing is that people really don't want to talk about is that we're still fighting fights way before anybody ever got, like me, who got off the couch during George Floyd. People that got off the couch during Philando, Jamar. People, this is the one thing that I realized is that everybody has something, some kind of event that made them get off the couch, that made them want to realize we have to be talking what's going on in our communities, because if nobody is, that's the one crazy thing that I will talk about, because you have a lot of people that do not live in these communities, but they want to have their nose in these communities. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't, because some of them have nonprofits, which they shouldn't, churches. And it's not just the nonprofits, because you have people at the county. Then that goes to organizations. And that's what people really don't want to talk about is how do we get change when everybody, no matter where it comes down to, they have their hands in the pot. But we never want to go to the people that allow it. Because I see it, that's the one crazy part is ever since Tim Walz has been governor in Minnesota, in my eyes, I think we've become a fucked up state. It's definitely not nowhere like it was when I was younger. That's the one thing that I don't understand is because I see a lot of lost kids doing and it's shit for attention. I'm not going to say that they're doing it because there is no better way, because there is a better way. I feel like they do it for attention. You've seen the video going around where the people in the cars in Uptown, and there's 2 police cars in the area, and they really don't do anything but just watch. Like, how do we end crime if we're just going to sit and watch? How do we get involved if we're just going to watch? Because I will tell you right now, I see, especially what's going on in DC, when you got the National Guard, the feds, coming into a city. But do people really think that Trump can do that in Chicago, if he can do that in Baltimore, if he can do that in so many other areas? But he can't. If you know the Constitution, and that's what I laugh at a lot of people, because I really want to see where Trump can bring in National Guard into cities and say that they're fighting crime, and not saying that crime isn't rampant. But are we seriously? Because I feel like, in my eyes, when, and that's what the fucked up part about it is, because if you see what's going on in our elections locally, and then you look at what's going on nationally, we're in for a hell of a ride, especially if Omar Fateh wins. And here's the thing that I want to play. So here is Aisha Shagtai, or I don't even know that that's her name, but she's a council member in Minneapolis at the city council. And here's, I'll just play it.
And inflammatory. That's how some are describing a Minneapolis City Council member's remarks about Mayor Jacob Fry.
Aisha Chugtai used the four-letter word, when talking about him at an event over the weekend. Fox 9's Mike Manzoni joins us from the newsroom tonight. And Mike, her own colleagues are calling on her to at least apologize.
Randy and Kelsey, 3 council members put out a statement saying they've never heard a city leader say anything like this. It happened at the Green Room in Minneapolis on Saturday. That's where Chugtai, who is supporting one of Fry's Democratic challengers in November's mayoral election, tore into Fry as well as President Trump. Here is a portion of the video she posted on her Instagram page.
Running for the city council again, and today I want to talk to you about my friend, my brother, Omar Fateh, the next door on Mangani right here in Minneapolis. We're going to transform the city because Jacob Fry, fascism, Donald Trump.
3 of Chugtai's own colleagues condemned those comments in a joint statement. They said in part, quote, the council vice president's outrageous remarks are an extraordinary breach of decorum. In our time on the city council, we have never seen a council member, much less council leadership, use such inflammatory and disrespectful rhetoric. Fry's office also put out a statement this afternoon saying in part, quote, the mayor believes in collaboration and the importance of setting aside politics to find common ground. Unfortunately, it's clear that the city council majority doesn't share those same values. The mayor remains focused on working together to deliver for the people of Minneapolis. And we reached out to Chugtai for comment, but she never got back to us.
What's crazy is you, in my eyes, and maybe in a lot of people's eyes, it's no different what's going on with the Republican Party that's going on with the Democratic Party in Minnesota. Is that you have Action for Liberty and Republicans, right? And then on the Democrats, you have the socialists. We are literally in real time watching politicians eat themselves. Right? She's this the whole crazy thing to me is like, how can Shagtai put in Jacob Frey and Donald Trump in the same kind of like statement of like, fuck them, because yeah, this shit don't even make no sense to me. You know, and that's the crazy thing for me is like, you look at what's going on in Minneapolis, it's either their way or the highway. Right? Because I can tell you right now is that train that they want to bring out to Brooklyn Center or Brooklyn Park all the way into Minneapolis over north, that's probably not going to go in. Not because anybody that's black did anything that over in North Minneapolis or no, it's because the feds. It's not because and I will be honest, it's not because of no fucking activist in Minneapolis. It's because the Fed, Donald Trump. That's the original reason why you are not going to see that train go through North Minneapolis. Because the feds are not going to pay for it. Because the feds are not going to pay for it. So what are they going to do in North Minneapolis now? We've already seen the businesses leave. Target. Same thing with St. Paul. Are people really, because everybody should know by now, elections have consequences. Everybody should know that right now, that elections have consequences. And we're seeing it in real time. We're seeing it in real time. Is what is actually going to be Minnesota's downfall? Is it going to be because people were not paying attention? And that's the one. I've been in a lot of these spaces lately, and like even on Twitter, and I shouldn't call it Twitter, X, and TikTok, because it's really been talked about. Minnesota has really been a topic. It doesn't matter if it's people out in New York. It doesn't matter if it's people in California. People are talking about Minnesota. People are talking about Minnesota. And are they talking about us in good light? Sometimes yes. And other times no. Because sometimes we are I feel like in my eyes, the laughing stock of a lot of states in this country. A lot of states. Because we say we want our kids to have a better education, but yet we're sitting here and indoctrinating. I don't even have a problem with nobody being trans or gay, or my thing of it is, why are we trying to put it down into kids? I get it. If it's an adult, if it's somebody that's 18 and older, I get it. But why aren't we taking a stand on people that are trying to indoctrinate our children? That's the whole part I don't understand. And I sit here and watch some of these school board meetings. And it's like, are people really paying attention? Are people really paying attention? Because in my eyes, I see a lot of selective outrage and not really people trying to stand up on it and trying to change. Because this is my thing about Red Wing, Minnesota, right? Is you have people that cry about racism all day, and I was one of them, right? But then how can we as people complain about something and question something about a city, but then we go and frequent the businesses that we know that are pieces of shit, that aren't no good. And it's all because they'll put a reggae fest on it. Does people not remember that this is the one crazy part of it, right? Is they had a whole Trump bullshit over at the harbor. But yet I see people that talking about Black Lives Matter and they still go frequent them places. And I don't get it. I really don't get it. And I understand it to agree, right? Because we can all be mad. To me, that's selective outrage. That's selective outrage. You're spending money at places that don't want to see you succeed. And you frequent them. That's what I will never. That's why I honestly feel like you look at the world is, right? I grew up and I knew about Bloods, Crips, Vice Lords, GDs. Then you just look at this politics shit. What the fuck is different? What is really different? I really want to ask people, what is different? Because in my eyes, there is none. There is none. All it is that people went from the streets and became politicians and wanted to become the people that wanted to eradicate or get rid of our problems in our communities, only to make this shit worse. And I know worser isn't a word. But it really baffles me. It really fucks me up. Because I see the end slavery Minnesota. How are we ending it? Shit? That's the one crazy thing is because people can come out and say that wrongs have been done to people. But are we trying to change it? Are we trying to change it? That's the one thing that I'll never understand. Even when it comes down to the governor's race in 2026. I will tell you like this. Politics is all fucked up in Minnesota, right? Because I will tell you like this. In governor right now, you have Tom Evenstad, you have Philip Parrish, Brad Kohler, Kristen Robbins, Kendall Qualls. How do any of those, I want to talk about that. How does any of those people help what's going on right now in Minnesota when it comes down to our education, when it comes down to our programs that are supposed to help people, house them, maybe feed them? That do we honestly have anybody that's going to change that? Because in my eyes, when it comes down to a certain few, and I'm going to talk about it, when it comes to Kristen Robbins, she complains and pinpoints certain shit, but doesn't try to change it. When this whole thing was brought up about the Fraud and Waste Committee, because I will tell you like this, I met with Republicans in 2023 and we laid it out. We had a video, me and Robert put it out there, and we was talking about a whole bunch of shit. But did they try to do anything about it? No, they just sat there. Even though there's plenty of ways to actually make a person be accountable, be transparent and truthful. There's ways around that to make a person actually be that, to be truthful, to be transparent. But a lot of people balk because they know that if they stand up and talk about that, their own skeletons are going to come out. So it's like everything that I see going on with our politicians, are any of those people going to change anything? So I talked about Kristen Robbins, Scott Jensen. That was a guy that I was, me and Marcus, Black Lives the Streets, was heavy on 2022. This threw his hat in there this summer. Jensen definitely won't get my vote. That's, yeah. Then you have Kendall Qualls. These niggas sit in our communities and don't do anything. They like to stack their paper and ask everybody for help. But where are they when it's not election season, when it's not time to put a campaign out there? They're quiet. They're quiet. Let's be honest, they're quiet. Then we have Brad Kohler. I met Brad in Rochester with Robert. And like I've been said, I had a bad feeling about Brad when I walked in there. Even when I left, I was talking to my wife about, I'm like, that nigga ain't shit. And then this the whole thing is like, how do we always say we want different. We always say that we want something that is going to take us and make us change. But is that shit that we actually see? Because I don't believe we do. And that's why I wanted to play a little bit of this video. It's from when they did a press conference about them taking back Omar Fateh, his endorsement. So I wanted to talk about the Fateh fallout and also the socialist agenda.
And that is that Mayor Fry only amassed 30% of the vote. Minneapolis residents are overwhelmingly excited to elect a new mayor. And there was more energy and excitement in that room that day, crucially for Senator Omar Fateh. Mayor Fry and his allies can attempt to change the conversation, but they cannot distract us from the fact that 70% of Minneapolis residents are ready to show up on November 4th and elect a new mayor. This decision by the state party is unfortunate, but more than anything, it is a reminder of just how far the conservative elements of the DFL will go to keep working people from having a voice in the future of Minneapolis. I stand here today with groups and organizations that represent tens of thousands of residents of Minneapolis, and we are committed to doing everything we can today until Tuesday, November 4th, to turn people out, to talk to voters, and to retain the progressive majority and elect a new mayor, Senator Omar Fateh.
Hello, my name is Saeed Mohammed, and I'm a ride-share driver for 9 years, and ride-share driver organizer with SEIU, Local 26. SEIU brings together over 5,000 people who live in the city of Minneapolis and closer to 70,000 workers across the state. We work our schools, hospitals, and nursing homes and provide in-home care. We clean and protect our buildings across. SEIU is proud for our drivers, members, and know our members are critical, very important, not just because of the work that we do, but just because of the work that we do, but that we are the city, the heartbeat of our city. That's why SEIU was proud to endorse Omar Fateh as his first choice and Dwayne David as his second choice for the next mayor of Minneapolis. Working people and union members know things or two about the power of fighting and block changing. We know about people who will use their contingency and resource to set up a game where heads they win and tails we lose. The yesterday rulings overturns will be a cause of the attendees that was frustrating, especially people who took part of the process of the community groups like mine, who spend time and energy and resource in telling our members and community that they should turn into the events, and not knowing that the group of people who I don't believe care about our city just to overturn the results. For those who leverage their access, empowering and undermining the process, as first will be our community. I hate to tell you this, but it's not going to slow us down for our working people like me who fought for too long and felt unheard. We fight for our wage and benefits we were owed. It is time for a new mayor for our immigrants who work hard every day and keep our city moving, yet to be continued or overlooked. It is time for a new mayor. This ridiculous ruling brought by people who I don't believe care about our city and it will not change our desire to elect a new mayor one bit. I'm proud to be here with all of you today and support and to elect a new mayor and Omar Fateh. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jay Freeberg. I'm the Secretary Treasurer of Unite Here, Local 17. Unite Here is Minnesota's hospitality workers union. We represent thousands of hospitality workers living in Minneapolis. Our members clean hotel rooms in downtown, they serve drinks at the airport, and they make food at the stadiums. They work hard every day to keep Minneapolis a welcoming place. At every major crisis this city has faced in the last decade, Mayor Fry has failed to meet the moment. Our members are ready for a mayor who will prioritize working people, not vetoes and divisiveness, which is why our union has endorsed Omar Fateh. Omar Fateh is ready to fight for working families in Minneapolis, fight for things like a $20 an hour minimum wage by 2028, rent stabilization and tenant protections while incentivizing new construction, and he will stand up to Trump's attacks on our community. The facts are clear. Omar Fateh won the DFL endorsement for Minneapolis mayor because delegates who are renters, homeowners, young people, union members, people of color, a diverse coalition came and voted for change. Instead of respecting the democratic process, people who largely reside outside of Minneapolis voted in a closed to the public room to overturn an endorsement made by Minneapolis residents. Let's be clear, this was a political decision that ignores the will of the over 8,000 people who participated in the caucus and convention process. Our union understands what democracy is. We fight for it every day in the workplace and in the streets, and overturning this endorsement is not democracy. Jacob Fry barely had 30% of the vote July 19th. He is deeply unpopular, and no decision made by party insiders and influenced by wealthy donors will change that. We will not allow the undemocratic actions of a few to stop our movement for a better Minneapolis. Our union and our thousands of members in Minneapolis are ready for a change, and we are going to put in the work to make sure it happens. We will be knocking tens of thousands of doors to make sure that we win in Minneapolis that puts Unite Here members and all working people first.
Hello, my name is Amanda Otero. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the co-executive director at Take Action Minnesota. I was a delegate at the Minneapolis DFL convention on July 19th with about 50 of my fellow Take Action members. What stood out to me most about that day was our very practice of democracy. Throughout the day, delegates received clear and consistent updates and explanations about the agenda and process from convention chairs and party leadership. We decided together by voting on motions about how we wanted to proceed at every step of the way. In a time when our democracy is so violently under attack, I am furious that well-moneyed political insiders succeeded in overturning a democratic decision made by elected grassroots delegates in our city. We can't deliver on the promise of the anti-authoritarian agenda of the DFL if the party doesn't actually honor the leadership and labor of its volunteers and voters. I was there in the room when we voted overwhelmingly to endorse Fateh. It felt incredible, and the will of the people was clear. We want a city that works for all of us, and Fateh is the leader ready to deliver that. At Take Action Minnesota, we organize with members and voters who have been historically left out of our democracy and our politics. Young people, BIPOC folks, gig workers, renters, queer folks, parents. That's who decided our endorsement of Omar Fateh. That's who came to convention to help him win the DFL endorsement. And that's who is actively organizing their neighbors for a vision of our city that works for all of us. Our members are more determined than ever to win this fall because so much is at stake. We're clear that, regardless of this decision by the state party, 70% of delegates at the Minneapolis City Convention rejected Jacob Fry on the first ballot. Minneapolis is ready for new leadership. We'll be organizing our 15,000 Minneapolis members and voters who vote with us every cycle to make sure they have the information they need to go out and vote for a new mayor on November 4th. And we plan to win.
A lot of people can do therapy. This is radically different therapy.
Yeah, that's, you know, I don't honestly believe that Minneapolis understands what they're in for, because what a lot of people do not want to tell you is that what happens in Minneapolis could potentially affect everybody in Minnesota, because if they get their socialist ways in Minneapolis, do you not think that effect is not going to trickle down to, because it already has. It already has. That's what people don't want to realize. It's already here. So what are we going to do about it now that it's here? Are we going to allow it to take over? Because if you're not watching what's going on in Rochester, Minnesota, you're not really paying attention to what's going on. You're not. Everybody's talking about, oh, well, Germany and Hitler were this and that. What do you think America is trying to do? And don't nobody, oh, well, Trump's trying to do this. It's y'all motherfuckers always want to talk about Trump. But let's talk about the people that's in our own fucking communities that want to see harm done to our communities. Because yes, I get it that Omar Fateh, whatever the fuck his name is, wants to see people that look like him be okay. No, I get that because I want people that look like me to be okay. But because you want to allow people that look like you, that are African, that are Nigerian, come over here, and then you write policies. That's a problem. When you don't even give a fuck about the people in Minnesota that have been here for years, that have been born here. That's what I don't understand. And we should really, that's what I'm gonna start doing. We should have we should have a living restriction. You have got to be at least in Minnesota 20 years before you start doing anything for politics. Because that shit affects so much when it comes down to our history. How many things are being destroyed from our history that we won't even be able to tell our grandkids, oh, we'll be able to show them pictures, but we won't actually be able to bring them to historical markers, to historical places in America. We have tokens of remembrance, but we can't actually bring people to see it. You know, that's like, just like in Red Wing. They talk about the equal rights meat market. But what about the house that was destroyed that was behind it? Because the Salvation Army sits there in a beautiful, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure the Patterson family loves it because it is beautiful. But what else is happening? Nothing. Because people, I will tell you like this, is that people that cared about that thrived and said that Black Lives Matter, look at them now. What are they talking about? You don't hear them talking about no fucking Black Lives Matter. You hear them out here talking about fucking immigrants. Our LGBTQ rights. We can't even get our own backyard straight. And we always trying to make it for some other motherfuckers okay. I will never understand that. And I know a lot of people are probably looking at me like, oh, you're just a hate. No, I'm not. Because I'm tired of seeing people that are from our communities struggling when they shouldn't have to be. It's all because, I'm gonna show y'all because I'm coming back. This, I know today's Sunday, but I'm coming back. The Urban Conservative is going to do another podcast. We're gonna, this enfranchised voter, the truth unbought. Because I see a lot of motherfuckers out here on contracts getting paid by the city, are getting paid by the state, are getting paid by the county, and all because you got a label. All because you got a title. Is that what we really care about? We don't even give a fuck if they got the title for doing wrong. Because they say they take care of our communities. Look at the salaries they have. Motherfuckers getting paid $200,000 to say they work for homelessness. They want to take care of it. Or look at the lady that worked for Heartland. I think it's called the Hungry Place or whatever, because they called this out during the session. Is that the lady was almost getting paid I think it was over like $750,000 a year to say that you're trying to end hunger. That's what I'm saying. These motherfuckers have 6-figure salaries on taxpayer dime. This is what I'm saying. This is the crazy thing, right? Because if a motherfucker paid $20,000 a year, that's how much you make. Think about the taxes. And then you think about the people that you're supposed to go to for help and look at all the money they make. All while we're sitting here, you know what? A lot of people don't beg, they sit here and be like soldiers and go through their shit alone. They don't want it, definitely don't want people's sympathy. They don't want people to feel bad for them. That's why I really don't talk about my stroke. I don't want people to be, oh, I feel bad for him. No, I don't want people to treat me any differently. That's not, no, I don't want to be treated differently. I want change. And I don't know how we're going to get there, because I will tell you right now, the people that are running for politics in our state right now, I don't know, besides maybe like Phillip and Mr. Parrish, Royce White. I know a lot of people are like, what do you mean about Royce? Come on, man. I know y'all are sick of the same ass Republicans over and over and over again. Y'all say y'all don't like racism. Y'all say y'all don't like these scams and y'all want to get rid of all this shit. But how when you're a part of it? I'm not saying that we don't, I want to defund the police or any of that. No. What I'm saying is that we need change. We need change. And don't just sit here and talk about, oh, well, we want to make sure that felons can vote and we don't. Make sure that it's everybody, not just a certain few, but everybody. And make sure it's not the motherfucker sitting here getting paid by the state. Make sure that it's not an Antonio Williams, or make sure that it's not a Lizer Darris or a Jonathan Mason. That's the shit I don't understand, is like, how can y'all say y'all want change and then the people around you are doing the same, doing the things to keep it in play, to make sure that we don't get no change? That's what I will never understand. You got motherfuckers out here that have got paid off our pain and trauma, like Nakima, Jonathan Mason. I'm not saying that he wasn't on the front lines, but how are you getting paid for people's pain? Nobody want. That's the crazy thing, is that I can tell you right now is that in our state, we don't want the truth. We want a narrative. Because I will tell you like this, the truth will scare y'all. The truth will scare y'all. Even though motherfuckers tell it, y'all don't believe it. And that's probably good, because of the crazy thing is, y'all still won't believe it. It can be right in your face, but you're so quick to talk about P. Diddy or Robert Kelly or Bill Cosby, but then have them same kind of niggas in your own community, in your own neighborhood, and y'all uplift that shit. I don't get that shit. I used to believe that way back in the day, right, that two wrongs could make a right. That ain't right. Two wrongs don't make a right. Two wrongs don't make a right. Because I will tell you right now is that most of these people that are working for nonprofits in our community, they know they have family members, our friends that are harmful, that are toxic to our communities, and yet we don't call them out. We're buddies with them. So how can people actually say they want change, but you're not changing your behaviors? You're not changing what you do on a daily, because let me stop. Let me get back into this little thing. Here go back with the interview or press conference, whatever they did, talking about Omar Fateh.
Hi, my name is Rod Adams. I'm the executive director of New Justice Project Action. I was gonna prepare notes, but I'm actually like really pissed. We stand at a moment, this country basically under our authoritarian rule, fascism is on the rise, and our democracy is under attack from the federal government. The fabric of our society in America is democracy. So at the convention, when organizations like ours, and organizations that stand behind me, and 8,000 residents of the city of Minneapolis work together to endorse a new mayor. And it seems for me that people who do not live in this city have more of a voice than the working class, black folks, brown folks, and the people who count on this city's government to take care of them. All over the country, people are questioning, should I engage in democracy? One of the reasons it's under attack is people don't believe it works. And the reason people do not believe that democracy works is because of moments like this. I cannot go knock on a door and tell someone that if you go vote, your situation will tangibly change when things like this happen. So working class people right now do not want to engage in democracy because democracy doesn't work for them. But I'll tell you this, behind this campaign that Senator Fateh is running are working class people who see the need for things like a $20 minimum wage, rent stabilization, universal child care, because they're not making it. And for the past 8 years, you can line up 10 working class people and 10 big money donors and developers and ask each of the groups whose life has gotten better. And I guarantee you the 10 working class people on this side won't say their lives have gotten better. So over the course of the last couple of months, we have been engaging in North Minneapolis, talking to workers, renters, about what type of city that they want to live in. They want a city that pays a living wage. They want a city that makes sure that they can stay in their home, by making sure that rents aren't rising. They want a city they can actually afford to live in. That's what the Fateh campaign is attempting to have happen in Minneapolis. Our members are ready for a change. I think that a lot of folks who are walking down the street on Lake Street or walking down the street on West Broadway see what the city is becoming. And it's not because of the people who live in the city, it's because of its leadership. So I and the folks behind me and our members are going to be making sure that we're going to work tirelessly, that on November 4th of this year, that Omar Fateh is going to be the mayor of Minneapolis. And thank you.
Take what you do best and create a website that's worthy of it.
The state DFL deemed in the findings that the electronic voting system is highly flawed and producing inaccurate results. Do you dispute that finding on state funding?
I think that's a better question. I think that's a better question for the DFL. I find it curious that they're deciding to maintain the park board endorsements and rescind the mayoral endorsements. And so it shows me that they don't actually question the entire process of the convention, but rather the portion of it that didn't go their way. And there's not a conversation of a remedy of conducting another convention or another endorsement. And I think that's because if we were to do that again, what would happen would be that Senator Omar Fateh would receive another endorsement for mayor.
But I think part of what the party found with relation to this process was among the technical issues that Danny just mentioned, is also that a candidate was erroneously dropped off after the first ballot, which subsequently led to inaccuracies later on. So does your statement still stand then with that in mind, that you think that this is, you don't dispute their findings here?
I want to say that I'm the chair of Minneapolis for the Mini. We endorsed Senator Omar Fateh to be our first candidate for mayor. We've also endorsed Dwayne Davis, and I cannot speak for Reverend Dwayne Davis or his campaign, but what I will say is that he honored the will of the voting body at the convention. And so even though it didn't necessarily go his way, Reverend Davis did not call that into question. And the results still stand that overwhelmingly, say he had been on the ballot, Senator Fateh and Reverend Dwayne amass a lot more support than Mayor Frey has.
So can you kind of walk through it for us, how you think this process would have gone had all of these votes been counted as the DFL laid it out there? If Dwayne Davis is still there in the second round, where does it go from there?
I don't want to get into those specifics, and I'm not a delegate. We have a couple folks here that were delegates that day. I don't know if anyone wants to chime in on that, but I would encourage you to ask the CBRC those questions.
So here are the things that I experienced as a delegate that day. There was a call to redo the first vote, and the vast majority of delegates voted against doing that and proceeding, right? So if that's what the majority, the way that the Cox Convention process works is largely the rules are decided by the body. And the body decided to move forward with the second vote. In that second vote, it was abundantly clear that Omar Fateh had won the endorsement. So I can't speak to the technical aspects. I know I was able to vote. I was able to use the electronic. Hundreds of other people were able to use the electronic voting system. And then the body decided to move forward with a vote after they were provided with the information.
You guys are talking about, obviously, the endorsement process is a party enterprise, right? And talking about how you're concerned that this is overturning the will of city residents who were there. But there is that election in November. Isn't that what matters more? And if you're confident in your candidate that he will prevail in the place where it matters the most, which is the ballot box?
Yes. I would say that Senator Omar Fateh is able to energize voters in a way that Mayor Fry hasn't ever been able to do. And we saw that on the first ballot. We conducted polling that also showed that Mayor Fry has a ceiling with Minneapolis voters, and that's 30%. And he received 30% of the vote at convention. And with ranked choice voting, we can vote for Senator Omar Fateh, Reverend Dwayne Davis, and Jazz Hampton, and a reign of terror under Mayor Fry can be over.
Can you guys talk about what impact this may have on elections going forward, 2026 and beyond? If you guys are having this much difficulty with the state DFL, does that increase your cooperation with them going forward, and the kind of energy that's in this campaign? Does that take it away in 2026?
I don't want to speak for the DFL party or members. I'm not a representative of people who are involved in the DFL party. What I see.
Ever wondered what your home looks like from space? Enter your address and get a 360-degree satellite view of your home.
Is that Richard Carlbaum started the convention saying that we are a party that is a big tent party, that it should be inclusive. And I feel like this decision continues to make many people feel unwelcome in the party, and that there is a large potential to discourage future.
I want to stop it right there, right? Because that shit trips me out. How they always say that, oh, what about the BIPOCs and the POCs and all that? Y'all don't care about that shit. Let's be honest. They say they do, right? They say that they care about the poor and the right. But the one thing that I wanted to talk about before I move on to this next thing, right, is that the Minneapolis, the council, I wanted to talk about some names, right? I wanted to talk about Robin Wansley, who is openly socialist, pushing rent control and anti-police measures. Jason Chavez supports reimagining public safety, which is code for cutting cops. Aisha Shugtai, whatever her name is, another voice for radical progressive policies. They'll tell you they're fighting for justice, but ask yourself, justice for who? Because it's not justice when businesses flee. It's not justice when Black neighborhoods are left unprotected. It's not justice when taxpayers foot the bill for failed experiments. You know, Malcolm X says something powerful, is you don't stick a knife in a man's back 9 inches and then pull it out 6 inches and call it progress. Minnesota, that knife has been in our back for decades. These politicians talk about progress, but not only progress they're making, but the only progress that they're making is towards their own power and wealth. So what do? We can organize, not around parties, but around principles. We educate. Stop letting the media spoon feed you talking points. We hold them accountable, demand receipts, demand audits, demand resignations when corruption is exposed. We vote smart, not for tradition, not for slogans, but for candidates who put Minnesota first and have a record to prove it. That's how we get change. That's how we get change. And I see everybody is like, they're not going to save us. It's going to be us. Nobody's going to be a white and shining armor, knight in shining armor. Nobody's going to be Captain Save-A-Ho in this movie. This movie that we call life. Because if you haven't seen what the fuck has been going on in the last couple of days, in the last couple of weeks, in the last year, we're getting out of control. And are people really paying attention? You know, because that's the one thing that gets me, right? Because I want to talk about this before I get out of here, is I want to talk about how Trump says he's preparing to deploy National Guard to Chicago. Now, I wanted to talk about this, right, for a little bit. And here are some Illinois leaders talking about if Trump deployed National Guard to Chicago.
According to the Washington Post, the Pentagon has been planning a military deployment to Chicago for weeks. The Post also reporting that plans could involve several options, including sending at least a few thousand members of the National Guard to Chicago as soon as next month. The Washington Post also reporting that there have been talks about using thousands of active duty troops in Chicago, but reports that plan is less likely to happen. Threats to deploy the National Guard to Chicago could come to fruition, according to the Washington Post, with possible plans to deploy as soon as September. This is all in support of what President Trump says is a crackdown on crime. National Guard troops have already been deployed in Washington, D.C., and this comes after Trump Friday alluded to Chicago being the next target. Despite these calls, Chicago police data shows violent crime is down in comparison to this time last year. Mayor Brandon Johnson had this to say at a block party earlier today.
One shooting, one homicide is one too many. And that's why this block club today is so powerful, because it's a reminder of how much work we have to do. Look at all of these young people and these families that are here today. This is who Chicago really is. What's being painted by the federal government is false. We love one another. We support one another. We put our arms around one another. We invest in one another because we know that we are our best keepers of one another.
Governor J.B. Pritzker saying in a statement tonight, in part, quote, Donald Trump is attempting to manufacture a crisis, politicize Americans who serve in uniform, and continue abusing his power to distract from the pain he is causing working families. And Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton referencing the Washington Post directly tonight, saying President Trump is trying to, quote, create chaos. Both Stratton and Pritzker say the state has not received any requests or outreach from the federal government asking for assistance, and say in return the state has not asked for federal.
Sienna, you know, everybody thinks that Trump is going to bring National Guard in. You know, this is the one thing. We always talked about a civil war. We never said what it looked like. Everybody thinks it's going to be the North versus the South. No, we're not trying to abolish slavery. This is not just going to be the North versus the South. This is going to be citizens versus the federal government, versus ICE, versus Homeland Security, the feds. You know, so people better be waking up because elections have consequences. And one thing that I did want to talk about is the candidates and the false choice, right? So now we look ahead to 2026 on the Republican side. You've got Scott Jensen, Kendall Qualls, Kristen Robbins, and Philip C. Parrish. On paper, they all look good, like good candidates. But ask yourself, what's their plan for real accountability? What's their strategy for restoring law and order without turning Minnesota into a police state? How do they stop fraud without suppressing legitimate voters? Because too many of these candidates are career politicians in waiting. They talk tough now, but once they get a seat at the table, they eat the same meal as the people they replaced. Because I will tell you, that's why I feel like with Kristen Robbins, Scott Jensen, these are people that, and Kendall Qualls. And, you know, here's the one thing, because I know there's a big thing about Tom Evanstad or whatever right now, right? And maybe he does that himself. I will not vote for that man. And I'll be honest, that is somebody that I feel like he calls out Royce White. That is somebody that I feel you do the same shit. You can't throw stones at somebody's house while you're doing the same shit. So I I don't really get that. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like we have that so much in politics. We throw glass, we throw rocks, but we have the same skeletons. You know, that's the one thing that I will talk about for me, right? Is when it comes to looking at a lot of these nonprofits over north or even the black churches, you know, I've done a lot of research. I've done a lot of research. And it's the one thing that I will tell anybody, go look at Star Tribune. I've tried to have I know that there's articles. Go look them up. I know that there's articles. That's the one thing that I will never understand in this, right? Is like everybody talks about being the bigger person or being I want to fight fire with fire. Because I believe in my eyes, that's the only way we're gonna get to change. You don't fight violence and try to eradicate violence by being people that all they know is one way of life. I don't see police, you know, especially when I was growing up, right? Policing is so much differently than now than it was when I was younger. And it's like we're way more lenient. The crimes have gotten more emboldened, they've gotten uh more smarter, and we're not handing out no type of accountability. But people that grew up during the 80s and 90s that were teenagers, and this the one crazy thing, right? Because I will tell you like this, growing up in Minneapolis, right? There's no way in hell that you could have a period for like a month, how they've had this summer, of over 500 cars being broken into. You know, and that's what's sad is because everybody wants to bring up, even me, we bring up Murderapolis. That period probably was like 92 to like 98, 96, somewhere like that. But actually, these last 5 years, we've had more murders during that time period. So how is it not Murderapolis right now? Because I think it was 2021, we beat the record. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that. We've had more deaths because fentanyl. Nobody wants to do anything about that. This is one reason why I fuck with Philip Parrish, right? Is when he talks about making change in Minnesota, he wants to go at the core. He wants to go at the root of the problem. You have to eradicate the root of the problem. If you want to, this is the one crazy thing that I hear people talk about all the time. They want to get rid of violence. They want to get rid of this. They want to do that. They want to do this. You got to fight fire with fire sometimes, because I will tell you right now, how many truces, peace summits, or whatever we've had throughout the years, and it always is broken. Because I will tell you right now is that enough people don't understand the laws that you put in that treaty or you put in that peace summit. Nobody remembers that. Because all it takes is one idiot to do something stupid, and then you have a whole new war going on. Because I will tell you right now is that it's one thing that it's hard for me in Minneapolis is to see that the same people that were part of the problem are still a part of the problem. Even though that Mayor Frey and the police think that they're answers to that, a solution, they're not. That's the one thing of like, I laugh at people when they talk about, oh, we're going to change Minneapolis. No, we're not. I used to believe that. I used to believe that. I used to believe that Brian O'Hara was not a police chief that would be political, would be actually want change. But when he got there, it was a whole different ballgame. Because not only has he added the people that were part of the problem as a part of his administration, his executive team, y'all are not going to get change. You're not going to get change. That's what I don't understand is like, how can we say that we're going to get change? But yet we still have this, there is no change. All you went from is the lesser of two evils. I'm going to tell you right now, everybody thinks that Jacob Frey is that's not a good option. So if you don't want to rank Frey or Fateh, Jazz Hampton or Dwayne Davis, there's Laverne Turner, there's Troy Peterson. You can rank those two. Because I remember being in the last mayor race, I was with Paul Johnson and Jarrell Perry. And that's what's really amazes me, right, this year, is to see like a lot of people that I was hand in hand and marching, protesting, and to see that the way that some of them are now. And it's like, that's crazy as hell. They will never change. They will never change. We've seen, because we think that going with people that it's the lesser of two evils. It's the lesser of two evils. That's what I really want to say. It's the lesser of two evils. I feel like the only way we're going to get change in Minnesota is to get away from DFL policies, progressive. Because that's how Minneapolis is fucked up. We have so many Democratic failed policies that people don't really want to look at it. It's really fucked Minneapolis up. It's really fucked Minneapolis up. You have police. I've seen videos, right, that people are doing all kind of dumbass shit in Minneapolis in front of these cops, and they don't even chase them. They don't even chase them. How is that not a problem? How is that not a problem? Votes for cash. They do the same with farmers in the farm bill. Less babies means less taxpayers. Augmentation and AI will decimate the current economy. What does the future look like? No, that is a very good question. Because, you know, I haven't talked about it on live or whatever, but, you know, and I will when I come back, because September 1st, that will be my official I'll come back date, September 1st or September 2nd. That's when I'm going to come back, because I feel like we need that. We need a voice. We need somebody out there that's going to make sure that we get change, we get reform, that it's not going to be the same old usual. Because we have a lot of people that are behind bars that need help. Or there's people out in the streets that need help, and they're not getting it because either one, that they're not, you know, in that DFL crowd, or because they don't see it. You know, we have so many disenfranchised people, and we got to change that. We literally have to change that. We've got to change that. We've got to change that. Because until we do, I honestly don't feel like we'll get change. We won't get reform. We'll just get the same old usual, right? And I think, to be honest, a lot of Minnesotans are okay with that. A lot of Minnesotans are okay with that. And that's crazy as hell to me, how people can be okay with that shit. But I don't know, maybe one day people, they will see something different, or maybe, I don't know, they'll get tired sooner or later. Because elections do have consequences. Elections do have consequences. And I think that Minnesota is about to see it. You want change, but I don't think that's the right change, man. But I'm going to get up out of here. I'll be back September 1st or to September 2nd. And until then, heaven or hell. Wait, I don't even know how to get that, but mind that again. But I will see y'all next time, man. And here is Jim Jones, Summer Where You Been At. Six Figure.
Summer, summer, summertime.
Summer, where you been at? I was deep in you. Been looking for you. I'm back outside. Summer, where you been at? Been around since December. So you at the Turks, run around with the members. Shit's lusty drinks, alcohol out the blender.
Remember 08, we used to ball, I remember. Start off in the dirt, working summer with the youth. Next summer I went to work and I saw Summer in the coupe. That was 93, my first summer, I was pitching Knicks. Then she started fucking with them niggas that was getting bricks. Shit in 95, she went away to get some higher learning. Should've had some bricks on the stove to get that fire burning. Couple years later, seen her up in Rucker Park. Walked in with Diddy, right before the scuffle started.